Hi everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics. Today we have a quirky European automobile, a 2004 SAAB 9.3. It even says it on the license plate, and has 175,000 miles. And the last few years this car has had some immobilizer issues. It basically, you get in it, it says steering lock malfunction, you put the key in, you can't turn the key, you can't start the car. Eventually it'll drain the battery all the way down. So I'll walk you through the history of this. It belongs to one of my neighbors, and I've looked at this car before. It hasn't been on a video yet, but I figured this time we're going to fix it for good and make a video on it. So, first time I saw this car was exactly a year ago, and it had this symptom where you put the key in, and that's what it says. Steering lock malfunction, make a safe stop, contact SAAB dealer. The only problem is SAAB dealers haven't existed for years. So I went over there, and basically the problem was with this steering column lock. So let's take a look at the starting system diagram, see what this steering column lock, the SCL, is all about, and I'll walk you through what I did last year to get it back on the road, but now it seems to have the same problem again. So I was using the Tech 2. This is the code that was setting. So just with the key in the lock position, the scanner actually gives you the reason why the key is blocked. This B3948 steering lock malfunction, I think that was the full description. So basically it's fussing about the steering lock. So now let's take a look at the diagrams and the starting system. So here's the OE diagram of the starting system. Lots of components involved, lots of modules, and finally you get to the starter. So I printed that off. Let's see how this thing works. So first, when you put the key in, this is the ignition switch module, the ISM. So you put the key in, and instantly the CIM, the central interface module, or basically the body control module, talks to the SIM and checks, is the key correct? If it is, it will command the SCL, the steering column lock, to unlock the steering column. So here's what it looks like. This is the original unit out of the car. 6-pin connector, and it kind of piggybacks off the steering column. This motorized thing goes in and out, kind of a latch. So there you go, steering lock module old, replaced fall of 23. So these go bad. I mean, the car's 20 years old and they fail. Either they don't move anymore or something in here fails and it just sets this malfunction code. So if that happens, if there's a malfunction here, you're dead in the water. You cannot turn the ignition switch to any other position, off, on, or start. But let's say you could, if this is happy, you turn this to on, then the CIM talks on the P bus, the powertrain bus, to the ECM. Now, the ECM is in charge of the starter relay. So on the automatic, with the key in the on position, you'll get voltage through the park neutral switch to the feed of the control side of the starter relay. Then the ECM also sees the park neutral signal, and then when you turn this to start, the CIM sees that the key is in the start position and asks the ECM, hey, please engage the starter. So then the ECM says, okay, we're in park and neutral, start request is received, and it finally grounds this pin right here on the control side and engages the relay, and finally your starter spins over and the engine starts. So this whole system can be thrown for a loop or disabled if any one of these components goes bad. And this one right here is the failure prone component. Now you go on forums, you go on Google, the SAAB forums. This is a very common issue, and different ways to either do a workaround, temporary solution, permanent solution. One solution that the owner tried before I even looked at this car last year was removing this fuse and putting it back in. I think he even wired in a little toggle switch, so when you're sitting in the car you can basically cut power to the SCL, kind of reset it, then re-enable it, and for a while that worked. Then once that quit working, we found a replacement steering column lock on eBay, and I installed it, but not on the steering column. I just kind of zip tied it away from the steering column, because if this thing gets stuck in the lock position, you know, your steering is also locked. We don't want that. But plugged it in, programmed it with the Tech 2, and it was fine for a year. Now, you know, his son's driving it here in college at Penn State, and it's a beached whale. You know, they're in College Town for a couple weeks. I finally got around to it. Went there and did some homework before getting there. Like, I wanted to get this car running so you could drive it to my shop here for the final repair. And let's see how to how to hack your SAAB to get it running with this broken steering lock control. So last night I went into town to get this thing started. The battery was completely spanked, so I had to hook up some jumper cables and then go to town on the interior. So first, kind of loosen up the center console, remove the side panels so we can get to the connector for this ignition switch module. Got that out and put it right here so we can plug it in and mess with it. Now, you see this little paper clip? So there's a solenoid in here that when the CIM says okay, you can turn the switch, it pulls back and you can turn it. So without the paper clip in place, you put the key in, it just says that, and you can't turn it. Okay, so step one is to get this ignition switch module removed out of here and use something to move this little solenoid back. You can even take the whole switch apart and remove the solenoid entirely. I think that's what we'll do for the final modification here. So let me reinstall the paper clip, and then we'll be able to turn the key, but obviously still the car won't crank. Alright, so I got the paper clip reinstalled, so now you put the key in and actually turn it to off, and then on. Everything comes on. Okay, we're almost there. And then turn it to crank. Obviously nothing happens. So what's step two to get your SAAB started? Alright, so we got the key in the on position by manually releasing that little lock solenoid in here. So now what does the car need to start? So the CIM is obviously still not happy with the steering column lock, and it will not send the start request to the ECM. So all we need to do is be the ECM, and this pin right here needs to be grounded for the starter to energize, to click this relay on. So all we're going to do is go from here and pull this pin to ground, and the car should crank and run. So this is one of the permanent solutions out there on the internet, and I think that's what we're going to do to this car. Just eliminate this steering column lock altogether and install a push button to start this thing. And obviously keep that solenoid, we'll probably remove it from the ignition switch so you can turn the switch on, push the button, and this thing should fire up. So let's try that right now. Let's find the starter relay, pull that pin down, and see if the car cranks over. Alright, here's the fuse box under the hood. I have the TOPDON Tornado charging this thing up. It's been charging overnight, so the battery is as alive as it can be. And right here, R8 is going to be, so we're missing this yellow one. So if we look at the relay, the two really fat pins, that's the load side. So even if we jump those two, the starter should energize. But I want to actually manipulate the control side pins. So test light battery ground, if it finds a positive, is going to light up. So which one of these control pins is hot right now? If we're in park and neutral, either pin 85, okay, that one is hot. So 86 must be the one that's being pulled down by the ECM. So with this relay kind of halfway installed, if we pull that pin, the control pin, down the ground instead of the engine computer, let's see if this thing cranks and starts up and runs. Ready? Let me get a better contact in there. There you go. Okay. So that's the solution. Now I want to make it permanent. Install a push button instead of my test light. And this thing should be back on the road. Obviously, you'll have that message for the rest of the car's life. You can put a piece of tape over it if it really annoys you, but the car will be usable, and I think you know, the customer approved that repair. He's like, whatever it takes, it's a college beater, just make it reliable so it can start and run and keep on going. And obviously to shut that off, you know, the key works normally, so not a problem there. Let's find a good spot to wire in this button, maybe somewhere in the dash. He said just, you know, make it look pretty, and we'll go from there. So I found this push button switch. It's a Dorman at Advanced Auto Parts. So it's going to be a low current circuit, just energizing that relay. So it's going to be like 100 milliamps, but I think this should work. It looks nice, and we'll just put it in the dash somewhere. So I'm trying to find a convenient spot for this start button. You can see here, that's the fuse number 1 that the owner already, that was a fix number 1, is to put this toggle switch right here to reset power to that steering column lock. So this is the eBay replacement that lasted a year. You can see it's zip tied here, not to the steering column itself. That's where it's supposed to live. So we're just gonna simplify the whole thing. So we have to run a wire through the firewall and put a button somewhere where it's kind of out of the way, and should start reliably. So the path of least resistance here to get this wire through the firewall, I think is going to be go right alongside this shift cable that goes to the transmission. So I'm going to try to stuff this threading tool alongside with the wire straight through. Just kind of wiggle and see if it'll. I went somewhere. Let's see. Yep, there it is. So now I got to fish the wire through and pull my tool back out, and then stretch it over here into the fuse box to this pin of the starter relay. So we could even put a dab of solder on there, and then shove this sucker back in, then install the button somewhere inside the car. Here's the progress so far. So wire stretched behind the master or cylinder reservoir over here around the strut tower. I drilled a small 1/8 inch hole right in the plastic right here, so fed the wire through. And now I want to put a dab of solder right to that pin so it'll be easily removable. Fire up our TS100. Look at that thing heat up all the way to 400C. That's definitely on there. We can wrap the other side of the wires in, but that should be good to go. Alright, let's make sure the relay fits in its home. Nice and easy. Perfect. That wire is not interfering with anything. Low profile, the fuse box will close perfectly. Now let's go install that button. So I got the ignition key module, or the ISM ignition switch module part. You need like at least 4 picks because you basically have to release each one of these tabs and it kind of wiggles off of here. So there's the cover, there's the guts, a little spring-loaded thingy, and we have 3 slider contacts that ride over here, and then this module communicates with the CIM to tell it where the switch is. Now the solenoid lives right down here, this box, with 2 pins. So how do we get that out? We need to take this plastic piece off with the sliders. Hopefully they'll stay together and get that solenoid out. I mean, we could just leave a paper clip in here, but that's not the most reliable thing to do, because if something happens to it, it'll just lock the key again, and we want to permanently disable that. I mean, if it's too much of a pain, we can still do that, but let me try to get this apart further. Alright, here's our prize. This whole thingy right here. So keep in mind there are little pieces of there's 2 little tabs holding it from the bottom here. I'm wondering how to depress those without destroying this thing. See, there's the plunger. So we have to figure out how to get in here. I don't want to break anything, but I just don't want to spend an hour on this. Alright, so dental picks stuffed in there. We just, yes, we push that right out. It probably messed up the solenoid, but no one really cares since it's going bye-bye anyways. Oh yeah, I definitely messed up that coil. Oh well. So we can either just take the plunger out or just take the whole stupid thing out, put it on the side, and reassemble everything. Make sure I know how this all goes back together. Is that it? Alright, sweet. So solenoid is out. It will never block the key again. That's awesome. Well, steering lock malfunction, make a safe stop. Why are we not turning on the all the lights? What happened to our ignition control? It's all plugged in. Oh crap. Does it need to see that solenoid to even work? That sucks. Oh no. Now we broke it completely. It's not even turning on the ignition. Nothing works. Except for that. Dang it. Oh, this is not good. Oh boy, this is turning into a disaster here. So, I did rip a wire on the coil here when I took it out. So I measured from one pin to one wire, from the other pin to the other wire. It was like 30 ohms plus 6 ohms, so about 35 ohms. So I found a 47 ohm resistor. We're going to stuff it in these two pins that were connected to the coil and put this thing back together and see if anything works. I really hope it does. Also, it's really important for these little spring contacts to be up. This one is kind of smushed down because when I slid it back, maybe I pressed it with my finger a little too hard. So the resistor is installed in here. So let's try. Put it back together really carefully. Make sure all the sliders are happy. Now, can we try it like this? I think we can. Well, no, not really. We have to close this up because it keeps everything together. I'm nervous. Alright, let's try again. Yes, we're back in action. Ah, that's a relief. So now, with the key on, let's ground this wire and see if the car starts. Okay, lights on. I'm just going to ground the end of the coil of the wire. Alright, I like it. It's all happy. Alright, now we can put everything together and install the button. Uh-oh. This thing's really not happy. Let me try starting it one more time. Oh crap, did we brick this SAAB? Are we trying to hack it? ECU not programmed. This is still on. There's no more steering lock message. Put the key in. Nothing. First click. Off. Nothing. On. Checking. Time for service. That's it. It's time for service. Let's try again. Shouldn't it say steering lock malfunction? ECU not programmed. Let's start it up again. Okay, fired right up. Not happy with something there. Guess we'll get the Tech 2 out, scan it for codes. I mean, it starts and runs. Interesting. No more steering column lock message though. Weird.